All right, let's get into round two of Crawford versus Gamboa.
Rodriguez. And here we go with round number two.
Okay, this is pretty neat. Crawford's head is over his lead foot. He's going to swing his rear foot around, then snap off a jab. Now, Gamboa is going to do a lead hand drop parry right here. And in round one, we saw Gamboa do that lead hand drop parry when Crawford went to the body. Now we see him do it when he jabs to the head. And one more thing to point out, check out how Gamboa keeps his rear hand ready to catch. Just super slick.
See if anything changes. There's the jab.
Boy, I like this. So in round one, I mentioned Crawford likes to pull square or pull his lead shoulder back. So let's set this up. Gamboa's going to push off his rear foot, snapping off his jab. But let's hone in on Crawford. All in one motion, he'll pull his lead shoulder, step this rear foot back, pointing his toes at Gamboa right here. Note the square shoulders, the rear toes. Now he's going to push off this rear foot, looking for his overhand as Gamboa pulls, then drops. Love it.
Immediately in the face of Gamboa.
Now, Gamboa's going to push off his rear foot, throw his lead to the body. Then he's going to go ahead and get back to this lead foot, do a rear foot step up, throw a lead hook, and we're going to see Crawford pull square. Then we're going to have some movement. All right, this is neat. Check out how they transition. Crawford's weight is on his rear foot while Gamboa's weight is on his lead foot. Now they switched. Now Crawford's going to go ahead and feint a jab as Gamboa pulls. Then he's going to come back with this rear cross. Then we'll get some movement and reset.
Gamboa to the left of your screen. That's Terrence to the right.
Okay, Gamboa's head's over his lead foot. He's sitting in that high guard. Crawford's going to push off this rear foot and throw his jab. Now note his head's still over his lead foot. He's going to follow up with a hook. Then he's going to fold out this jab as Gamboa looks for that rear hand parry. So I like this. Crawford's going to feint his jab, but let's hone in on Gamboa. He's going to pull square right here. Now, Gamboa's lead is loaded. He's going to throw his lead cross and then follow up with a rear cross to the body. Then we'll have some feints.
A trim on the trunks of Yuriorkis Gamboa from Cuba.
Now, Crawford's going to jab, and we're going to see Gamboa slip his head in over his lead foot. Then I'll pull from this hook. Then he's going to drop right here, and then we're going to see some feints.
A lot of the questions early was how...
All right, Crawford got to his lead foot. He'll jab as Gamboa parries. Then he's going to drop. Then he's going to go ahead and pull from this rear cross from Crawford. Little pendulum from Crawford. Then some movement.
If Gamboa was going to have any ring rust, it's been a year since he's been in the ring and only twice in the last 2 years, so...
Okay, Crawford will jab as Gamboa parries. Crawford's going to double it up, and we're going to see Gamboa travel from his rear foot to his lead foot. Then we're going to see that one more time. Crawford's going to triple it up as Gamboa travels from his lead foot to his rear foot. Then we get a tie-up. We're going to reset. See some feints.
Not too much of that showing early, Colonel. I think he's looking okay out there, but that was a big question that a lot of fight fans had coming into this match was if it was going to show a little rust.
It's early to note, but...
Boy, I have to say, I love how Gamboa mixes up his lead hand and rear hand parry. So here, Crawford's going to jab as Gamboa redirects with his lead hand. And again, note how Gamboa keeps his rear hand high. Just love it.
Veteran fighter, spends a lot of time in the gym.
So Gamboa's going to swing this rear foot around, and as soon as he plants, he's going to throw this lead to the body. But let's focus in on Crawford. He's setting up that square pull. So in one motion, he's going to pull his lead shoulder, step his rear foot back, pointing his toes at Gamboa while throwing his overhand. Both ideas were great.
Maybe not so much.
Gosh, I love this fight. So Crawford's going to feign his lead. Now, on the next beat, Crawford's going to commit his lead as Gamboa slips in, moving his head over his lead foot while bringing his rear hand over with him. Now, again, what I think is so cool, Crawford sensed the trap. He's going to push off this lead foot, pull to his rear foot. Then we're going to get some movement and some feints.
But at this distance, Crawford can...
Now, Gamboa flashes lead hand high, push off this rear foot for a rear cross to the body as Crawford pulls square, which means his lead hand is loaded to throw a check hook. And we're going to see Gamboa push off this lead foot to his rear foot. And something to chew on, Gamboa's going to pull back square, not bladed, to minimize that danger of Crawford's hook. Note the weight's on his rear foot. Now, Gamboa's going to get to this lead foot, throw his leaping cross, as Crawford pulls square again, and then catch Crawford with this rear cross to the body as Crawford looks for his lead counter. Then we'll get some more movement and some feints.
Not box him all night like this. Gamboa is trying to take some shots to come in the inside.
He's trying to use some smart aggression. Go in and out, use his quickness.
All right, Crawford got to his lead foot. He's going to throw his leaping jab as Gamboa looks to time him to the body. Now, this is slick. Gamboa stayed on that lead foot. He's going to pop up with this little lead hook, catching Crawford as he pulls. And again, watch Gamboa and Crawford flow between their lead foot and rear foot. Just fun to see.
It's a light left hook upstairs that time. Does Gamboa.
Okay, Crawford's going to snap off a jab, but let's zero in on Gamboa. His head's over his rear foot. Now, once that jab comes, he's going to look to move to his lead foot. And then check out how Gamboa is going to use his rear hand to control Crawford. Crawford's going to go ahead and snap off his jab as he completes that pivot. And here's another fun one. Crawford's going to throw his jab rear cross, but Gamboa is going to time him with a jab to the body right here. Just slick. So Gamboa's head's over his lead foot, his shoulders are square. He's going to push off this rear foot, throw a jab to the body as Crawford looks for his rear parry, and then counter lead. Then we'll get some movement.
Gamboa as a featherweight, nothing short of sensational.
Now Gamboa is on his rear foot. Crawford's going to snap off his jab. And we're going to see Gamboa shift his weight to his lead foot. Then we're going to see that same pattern again. Crawford's going to feint. Gamboa's going to go from his rear foot to his lead foot. And one thing to check out how Gamboa has his lead hand ready to parry.
Now going from 126 to 135, big difference, especially.
All right, so this is interesting. We have Gamboa, lead hand extended, shoulders bladed, head is between his lead foot and rear foot. Crawford will jab, and we'll see Gamboa pull. Now, since Gamboa's head is between his lead foot and rear foot, he has less of a pull available to him versus if he had his shoulders square, head over that lead foot. So here's that jab. There's the pull. Gamboa is going to use his lead and go to Crawford's body. Then in the very next beat, Crawford will look for that rear straight.
With the height difference that Crawford has, but Gamboa.
Okay, so Gamboa's going to get this lead foot, throws leaping hook as Crawford pulls square, looking for his lead counter. Gamboa pulls, he's going to throw his rear cross, and we're going to see Crawford pull. Then we get a little bit of movement.
Has been fighting taller guys almost his whole career, so he should know how to handle it.
So we have Gamboa in his high guard. Crawford's going to push off this rear foot, throwing his lead hook as Gamboa pulls. Then he's going to drop in case a rear cross should happen to come from Crawford.
But Crawford is not just an average lightweight. He's a light.
Now Crawford will fold out his jab as Gamboa stays in his high guard.
Weight champion with a lot of skills.
And a big lightweight.
All right, now Gamboa will get out of that high guard by throwing his lead to the body. But let's hone in on Crawford. Check out how he rotates his hips to the left into this shot, deflecting it with his rear elbow. Okay, so Gamboa is going to push off this rear foot, step with his lead, and note the lead hand high. Once he lands, he's going to throw his rear overhand, then leaping hook. Then we'll get some more movement.
His team speaking.
So this time, same pattern from Gamboa, but Crawford decides to interact. Crawford's going to look to parry Gamboa's lead. Then he's going to look for his lead counter as that cross comes. Then he'll throw his rear uppercut to the body as Gamboa looks for his hook. Then we get one more from Crawford with his lead and Gamboa with his rear. Then we're going to go ahead and reset.
Somewhat candidly, but it was a little tough for him making 135 this time around, Colonel.
Yeah.
Now Crawford's going to double feint with his lead, then rear cross as Gamboa decides to not engage.
I talked that Bob Arum talked about him wanting to go, at least.
All right, Gamboa's going to go to the body, but Crawford's going to complete a rear parry, then counter with his lead hook, then rear hook. Crawford's going to feint his lead, and then he's going to pull as Gamboa tries to time him with this overhand. Crawford's going to look for his check hook, then rear uppercut. Then we'll have a tie-up. And a warning. Break. Reset.
The promoter wanting him to go to 140. But all of that's academic right now. And a little rough on the inside there. And Gino says no. Gamboa gives him the bow.
Okay, Gamboa's going to throw his leaping hook, rear cross, lead hook, as Crawford catches the first one on his lead foot, the cross on his rear foot, and then that final hook on his lead foot. Then we get some movement.
Good shot landed by Gamboa.
So Crawford throws rear straight as Gamboa slips to that lead foot using his lead parry. Note the pivot and the rear hook from Crawford. And that will do it for round 2.